I'm afraid to say the taxpayer simply can't afford the tens of billions of pounds in compensation when the evidence does show that 90% of those impacted did know about it. That's because of the state of our economy. We will not raise tax on working people. No tax rises for income tax, for national insurance, for VAT. We will not raise income tax. And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
In terms of whether we'll be doing something similar in the future, no. This was a budget to reset. It means our public finances are now on a firm footing and the trajectory of public spending is much more honest. So we're never going to need to do a budget like this again. This was a once in a parliament reset so that we start on the right foot. And also to give businesses, families and markets confidence that we now do have our public finances on a firm footing. To break the cycle of austerity, we need a fair and a sustainable tax system. One that generates revenues to fund the public services that we all use and supports investment to grow our economy. That does mean that today I am asking everyone to make a contribution. The previous Conservative government froze personal tax thresholds from 2021 to 2028. And today I will maintain all income tax and equivalent national insurance thresholds at their current level for a further 3 years from 2028.
Not changing that policy.
You're not changing the two-child policy benefits, okay?
We are lifting 450,000 children out of poverty with the end of the two-child limit.
Been a miracle at Christmas for British farmers. As Keir Starmer has sensationally done a U-turn. He's watered down Labour's inheritance tax raid. The threshold will now rise from £1 million to £2.5 million from April next year.
And I will support the Great British Pub through our new national licensing framework, encouraging councils to back our pubs and to back late-night venues with greater freedoms. Business rates, I will introduce permanently lower tax rates for over 750,000 retail, hospitality and leisure properties, the lowest rates since 1991.
Welcome to Political Pulse, where we dissect the twists and turns of UK politics without the fluff. I am your guide through the chaos, and today we're buckling up for the Great Labour Loop. Picture this: you are driving down the motorway of governance, full of promises and manifestos. But suddenly, screech, U-turn after U-turn since Keir Starmer's Labour swept into power in July 2024, we've seen a dozen major policy reversals that have everyone from farmers to pensioners scratching their heads. Are these signs of savvy adaptation or a bumpy ride toward instability? We'll break it down with fresh research, real impacts, and a no-holds-barred debate. Stick around. This is going to be a 20-minute thrill ride. Let's hit the gas, all right. Let's not beat around the bush. Labour's manifesto was all about stability. No tax hikes on working people, bold green investments, and fixing the Tory mess. But governing hit reality, and the reversals started piling up. I've checked reports from Politico, The Independent, The Guardian, and more to verify these. We'll count down 12 key ones with the backstory, the flip, and what it means for you. Think of it as a political GPS recalculating constantly. First up, the WASPI women's saga back in 2022. Starmer promised support for the women against state pension inequality, those 1950s-born women hit by sudden pension age hikes. Fast forward to power. In January 2025, Work and Pensions Secretary Liz Kendall-Flatt out-denied compensation, citing the economy's state and evidence that most knew about the changes. But by November 2025, after an ombudsman report slammed maladministration and fresh evidence emerged, they U-turned. Now payouts up to £2,950 per person are on the table, potentially costing billions. It avoids a massive backlash from 3.8 million affected women. But critics say it is a flip-flop that erodes trust next. winter fuel payments. In July 2024, Chancellor Rachel Reeves axed the universal £300 heating aid for pensioners, limiting it to $1.3 million on pension credit to plug a £22 billion black hole. Q outraged 10 million lost out amid rising energy bills. By June 2025, after poor local elections and MP pressure, they extended it to all earning under £35,000, covering 9 million. This is one of Starmer's biggest U-turns. It saves pensioners from cold winters, but adds £1 to £2 billion to spending. Loop number 3, employers' national insurance. Manifesto crystal clear. No rises in NI income tax or VAT for working people. Yet in the 2024 autumn budget, Reeves hiked employer contributions by 1.2 to 2 percentage points, lowering thresholds. She argued it doesn't hit employees directly. Semantics, says the Institute for Fiscal Studies, calling it a straightforward breach. This raises £25 billion, but slams businesses with higher costs, potentially leading to job cuts or wage squeezes. For the grooming gang's inquiry, Starmer initially dismissed calls for a national probe into widespread abuse scandals, labeling it a far-right bandwagon in January 2025. But after a review by safeguarding expert Louise Casey and pressure, including from Elon Musk, he flipped in June 2025, launching a full statutory inquiry. It took 159 days, driven by backbench MPs' better justice for victims. But it fuels accusations of reactive governing. 5 the once in a Parliament budget reset. In the first 2024 budget, Reeves promised no more shock resets. Public finances were now honest and stable. But by 2025 to 2026, with rising debt and reversals piling up, analysts warn of downgraded fiscal outlooks, hinting at more interventions. Markets get jittery, borrowing costs rise. 6, the £28 billion Green Pledge. Labour's flagship, £28 billion annual investment in green jobs and energy, ditched in February 2024 pre-power, but echoed post-election due to borrowing costs and economic woes, now scaled back to £8.3 billion. Good for the deficit, maybe, but environmental groups say it risks net zero goals and jobs in wind and solar. 7, welfare reforms. Planned £5 billion savings via tighter personal independence payments for health conditions. In March 2025, over 120 MPs rebelled. By June, existing claimants were protected. Scrapping the savings helps 3.7 million disabled people. Blows a hole in budget plans. 8, income tax thresholds hinted at hikes pre-budget, spiking markets. U-turned due to better data, but froze thresholds to 2031. Effectively a stealth tax via fiscal drag, hits middle earners hardest. 9, 2, child benefit cap. Kept the Tory policy initially, suspending rebellious MPs in 2024. Scrapped in November 2025 budget, lifting 450,000 kids from poverty at £5 billion cost. Bold anti-poverty move. But why the Delay 10 employment rights bill promised day one protections against unfair dismissal, diluted with a 6-month probation. Unions fumed, but it passed, sign of compromise or weakness. 11, farmers' inheritance tax, a £1 million threshold for inheritance tax on farms from 2026. Raised to £2.5 million in December 2025 after protests, saves family farms but loses revenue. 12, business rates for pubs, plan to slash COVID relief from 75% to 40%, hiking bills £11,000 on average. U-turn January 2026 with £300 million support. Saves pubs from collapse. But hospitality still fragile post-COVID. Whew! That is a lot of loops. Research shows these stem from fiscal holes, MP rebellions, and global shocks like energy crises. But what do they mean overall? Now, the big question. Are these U-turns a flex of confident governing or a sign of wobbly wheels? On the pro side, Labour Chair Ann Turley called it the sign of a confident government that listens to stakeholders. Defenders argue it is adapting to a hollowed-out economy after 14 Tory years, stagnant wages, fragile sectors like hospitality. Reversals like welfare tweaks add £11 billion to 2029 spending for long-term fixes. On the con side, critics call it chaos, with Starmer's about turns eroding trust. Voters are defecting over broken promises. Business uncertainty, market spooks, borrowing up and plummeting approval, balanced view, governing's messy, no perfect solutions in a post-Brexit, post-COVID UK but 12 in 18 months. That is a record pace. What do you think, viewers? Drop your comments. Strength or stumble? As we exit the loop, remember, politics is a marathon, not a sprint. These U-turns have lifted kids from poverty, saved pubs, and protected farms, but at a cost to credibility and coffers. With 2026 underway, eyes on the next budget. Will there be more twists? Research suggests yes. Expect more U-turns. For fun, quick hits on other buzz, Trump's Greenland push, Denmark saying no, but it is a NATO flex. Harry-Charles feud, reports of an olive branch. Family drama meets royalty. Thanks for riding along. Hit like, subscribe, and share your takes. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road. Peace out.